Hi, I'm Emily from Lunar Pumpkin. For those of you who don't know me, I have a background in health and social care, and I've been a moon lover for so many years, growing up not too far from an observatory. So would you like to learn about the phases of the moon and how we can use those as a cosmic timer to help us remain present, to help us set goals, and to generally see the beauty around us that nature can provide. So, the moon so we have two different parts of the lunar cycle. So the moon has the waxing stage, where the moon is getting bigger and bigger and bigger from our vantage point. So we can never see the whole of the moon. We see one side of it, which is illuminated by the sun. And that's how we get to see it in all its glory. So the very first stage of the waxing cycle of the moon is the new moon. So at the new moon, we can't see the moon at all. It's completely plunged into darkness. Then we've got the waxing crescent, where we start to see like a small smile of the moon, shall we say. Just a small slither. Then we have the first quarter moon, the waxing gibbous, and the whole of that waxing cycle lasts about 2 weeks. So this cycle of the moon is all about intentions. So what I love to do is set an intention every new moon of goals I want to work on for that lunar cycle. So the moon moves through each phase of the 8 phases. It's about 2.5 days per phase. And then after that waxing cycle, we have the waning cycle. So the waning cycle starts from the full moon, which is that peak of the lunar cycle, where we can see all of that illuminated part of the moon. Then we have the disseminating moon, which is also known as the waning gibbous. Then there's the third quarter moon, and then we have the balsamic moon. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail for you in a moment. So the new moon, that represents new beginnings. And if we think about the new moon, because it's in the darkness, we can think about the season of winter. And from there, let's have a little think more. So there's archetypes for each of the 4 main stages of the moon, because although I've said there's 8 of them, the 4 main ones, we have the new moon, then we see half of the moon, and that half of the moon is called a quarter moon. That's the first quarter moon. Then we've got the full moon, it's all its beauty, its glory, it's completely full. And then we have the third quarter or last quarter moon. So at the new moon, as I say, it's complete darkness, we can't see the moon at all. And at this point we've got very low energy. So the archetype for here, for the new moon, is the crone. So the crone we see, she's a divine feminine figure. She is very wise, she's an elder, highly intuitive, and the crone loosely translates as she who wears the crown. That to me is a crown of wisdom. So she is really, really revered by society, and everybody loves to learn their lessons, their wisdom, all she has to teach from all of her experience. And we can think of the element that this relates to is earth. because the new moon, we set our intention of a seed into the darkness of the soil, and from there it has the potential to grow and grow and grow. But we need to remain present and do that inner work to allow that to happen for us. So also we think of the directions that in ancient times, I think it's about 25,000 years ago, is the first recordings of when people started looking to the moon and the sky for guidance. So guidance of their spirituality, to gain wisdom, also to navigate, and just generally it was their way of using a calendar. So we have that season of winter, as I say, where our energy levels are likely to be very low and it's completely dark. So practices we could use here, we could use restorative yoga, where we basically have very, very low intensity movements and utilise the breath, always prioritising the breath, and do very, very low intensity movements in a sequence. We can also use yin yoga, which is slightly more intense than restorative, because you're holding those poses for a lot longer. So for your average yoga, say Hatha or Ashtanga, lots of different styles of yoga anyway, you might hold poses for a few minutes or so and then go to another pose. So it'll be a couple of minutes or so per pose. Whereas for yin yoga, you're not warming up the muscles first because you're trying to get into the tissues and the fascia, and you're basically allowing your body to rest. So that's very in tune with what we're doing here. We're allowing the body to rest, and we can reflect on what it is we want from this lunar cycle. So in those, in yin yoga, you usually have lots of different props and things to support you, and you hold a pose from anywhere from 3 to 5 or even 7 minutes in a singular pose. It's a lot less poses than that than your average yoga. So that's one of the practices we could use. Also, we might want to be meditating, so really stilling the mind, and again focusing on the breath. And journaling is a lovely way to work out, okay, what do I need to work on here? At this moment in time, this is not working for me, or I need to be a bit stronger in this area. So you might want to literally just write with a time of 5 to 7 minutes or something, and just write and see what comes up. Then meditate, still your mind, focus on the breath, and really then find a way that you can set an intention for yourself. Something simple, seeing that goal as though it's already been achieved, really feeling into it. How would you feel if you achieved your goal? How would it make you feel? You would probably feel on top of the world, over the moon, pardon my puns. Anyway, so that's some of the ideas you could use to work with the new moon. So the new moon itself, as I say, it symbolises new beginnings, but also in this time, a day or so beforehand, there's what we suggest is the death or the letting go of the previous lunar cycle. And then from that, it's kind of like a phoenix rising up out of the ashes. It's a really powerful way to hone in and really embrace that darkness within you. But that darkness is a thing of beauty, because from that darkness, new life grows. And I love that analogy. There's a goddess you can actually look to use for this as well. I like to think of Kali. So Kali is known as the black blue goddess, and she's really fierce, and you don't want to mess with her. So She is known to be the goddess of death, rebirth, and fierce protection. She holds no prisoners. So that's her. And then if we look into the chakras as well, so if we're saying that the element is earth, we think of the root chakra. So the root chakra is the energy center that is lowest on your spine. So the energy centers run from the very base of your spine right up through your heart and to the crown of your head, just slightly above. And so those energy centers really are keeping our body at its optimum health. So in medicine we say homeostasis, that's optimal well-being and health. So when we think of the root chakra, we can think of the base of our spine down into our hip points and our bottom, the soles of our feet, all of that's our root chakra. And that is the anchor point of our spine, what holds us together. So that's also what we can think of. But when we come to astrology, which is a really big love of mine, and I've learnt through Deborah Silverman's applied astrology. I've taken levels 1 and 2. Level 3 I will do in the future, and I'll probably give a few astrological readings to all of you at some point, should you want them. But for now, I thought I'd share all my knowledge with you of what I've learnt over the years in my spiritual practices, working with the Lunar Cycle to consciously be present. So when we think of the element of earth, we feel really grounded, we're practical, we're stable, and we have great plans. We have a lot of stability and lots of things to think about and ways to get things done. So the earth signs within astrology are very focus oriented on the task in hand. You think of the signs, they make lists and things. So the earth signs, we have Taurus. Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac. And Taurus persons, or people with sun, moon or rising in Taurus, they love to feel comfortable. They lean into sort of this sensuality. You might think of somebody with a lot of Taurus in their chart as being somebody who likes to have a very similar routine each day. They find a lot of comfort in their routines. And actually, Taurus being the second side of the zodiac, so the signs of the zodiac also correspond with the houses too. Although we can of course have our own planets and signs different in our birth chart, our natal chart. But Taurus traditionally rules the second house. So the second house is all about values. Be those values in money and our spending habits, or values of ourselves, what we find is valuable to us, how we represent what we want and what we need, what we are deserving of in ourselves, and what we feel we can give to others. So it's those values. So the other earth signs are, what do we have? We have Virgo, which is the 6th house of the zodiac. And Virgo, we think about analysis. Their phrase is I analyse. So Virgo on the high road, really feeling comfortable, but also being on the A game, shall we say. A Virgo would be very much looking after their health and well-being, their routines, and really using that critical thinking in a way that is not judgmental, but a way that serves a business or their life, helps other people, are very, very helpful people, often with a lot of Virgo in their chart. But also quite modest too. The low road of Virgo would be in judging themselves too much, thinking they're never good enough. But actually, Virgo, I want you to know you are good enough. Your practicality, people can learn so much from, and your emphasis on health and routine is beautiful. You don't need to constantly be doing more and more and more, because you're helping society in such a wonderful way. And actually, at the moment, we have a Virgo full moon. So that's probably why a lot of my thinking is here. With the sun in Pisces and the Virgo full moon. And then we also have the sign of Capricorn as an earth sign too. So Capricorn is the 10th house or 10th sign of the zodiac. I use this interchangeably because in the system that I've learnt through, we actually correlate the two in some respects. So if you were to have your sun in Capricorn, then your sun wears that lens, and you see things through the eyes of practicality, and you're going to be likely to be quite ambitious, loving your work and your career, and really, really, really focused. So Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, so we could think about the karmic aspects of that. So if you're living your best life and you're really in tune with who you are and what you're doing, then Saturn's probably going to give you a fairly easy ride. Whereas if you're not in alignment with your soul purpose and what you've come into this life to do, then Saturn might kick your butt, to put it bluntly. But we do all have our life lessons to learn, and often Capricorns can be quite disciplined. So that's a couple of the earth signs. All three of the earth signs. So that, I say, we've covered most of the new moon and the things that I like to focus on and how you can correlate those together. So the chakras, the energy systems that run through our body. The moon phase itself with the new moon, but also focus on different practices you might use. So that's most of that covered. Oh yes, also I like to talk about Durga. So Durga is considered the goddess of the new moon. So you could do a chant to Durga if you want to, each new moon, as a way of celebrating the new moon coming in. I might do another video on the chants that you can use. And obviously let me know in the comments of this video if you'd like to see that and what you'd like to see future videos on. Well, remember, if you're resonating with the content that I'm sharing, feel free to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss another one. It always feels so cheesy saying that, but please do so if you like what I'm sharing. Okay, so after the new moon, our next big phase of the 4 main phases is the first quarter moon. So the new moon was where we have the sun and the moon conjunct. So planets that are conjunct, although the sun is technically a luminary, so the sun and the moon are they light our day and night to some extent. The moon reflecting the sun's light. So they bring us night and day, also affect the tides, the seasons, and the sun with its life force, masculine yang energy, and the moon with its receptive, intuitive energy. They flow in a lovely dance together. Well, that's how I like to see it anyway. So as I say, that's the new moon having the two conjunct. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Namaste.